Ever since Tekken 8 is released, there have been tons of guides put out for pretty much every character in the game. However, one thing that I did notice is that nobody is making guides or even talking about basic game plans that beginners can pick up in order to play the character. So if you're somebody who's trying to learn Reina as a new player to Tekken 8, or you are somebody who's already an experienced player trying to pick up Reina and just find any simple game plan, this video is pretty much for you. I'm gonna go over all of the moves that she has that are important to use and in which scenarios they are important to use, and also give you a general idea of how you are supposed to use them and what you can do with them. First, let's talk about the most important move that you're going to be using pretty much all the time, which is 112. So 112 by itself is an extremely good move. However, it is -17 if you're hitting the 2 button on block. In order to mitigate that, you have to hit confirm it. So basically, whenever you see these jabs and they hit Kazuya, then you would go for the 2, and then it would lead into Sentai as well. And we're gonna go into Sentai in detail later. I just want you to know that that is a possibility for now, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, really good. Also an extremely good punish. Whenever you don't know, like, if something on block was negative enough to be punished, you can try 112. It is safe. Next, let's go over down forward 1. So basically the same as 1, but just in a middle version. This one has 3 possibilities. 1, if you hold forward, you can swap it into Sentai, like this. If you go for another one, you can go for 1-1, and you can go for 1-2. Usually I use 1-2 because we're trying to hit our opponent with a medium, right? That's kind of the intention. So we have an immediate combo, heat engager that we can use. All of that, really solid. Now, let's say you had like a medium range like this. Something that starts working is probably Reina's best button. It is her approach tool, whiff punish tool, neutral skip tool, leads into great mix, everything by itself. Forward 2. This move is absolutely godlike, and the biggest reason why is because it can auto combo into Sentai free, and it will give you a heat engager. So you can just get whatever you want, and even if not, let's say you hit them on block, you're still +1. This is going to be extremely important. We need the plus frames here in order to just keep going with the pressure, essentially. Next is back 1+2. This is basically just an armor move. If somebody spams highs and mids a lot, there you go, right? Simple. A 3+4 into 4. Just another mid you can use at medium range. It's really good to get crouchers. This by itself is -8. However, there is a follow-up that you can use on block or on hit, which is -14. Please only use the follow-up, just like with 112. If you see that your opponent crouches or you got hit or anything, or you catch them mashing, that is another thing. If you catch them mashing, you can do that. Down forward 2, this is just your regular launcher. This is nothing special. Everybody has a launcher like that, or almost everybody has a launcher like that. Just classic launcher. This is our go-to whiff punish button in neutral, like this for example, next to forward 2. So if you want to launch your opponent, we will go for that. If you are somebody who is good enough at doing electrics and you can whiff punish people like it's nothing, you should do electrics instead. Because as a beginner's guide though, I do have a video on how to do electric in Godfist. If you do want to pick it up, videos in the description, anywhere here up top. Next is down back 2. Now we're going to talk about most of the lows, right? This is a really good low that you can use by itself. 24 damage. Really solid. Also reach. You can see how far this reaches. I can go even further back. It still reaches. It's really good. It's really good. It's where like instances like this wouldn't hit, but this will hit. It is risky though. You can't just mash this. Next is down 4. This is something you use around start or just in general to poke your opponent. -4 only. 12 frames. Quick hit. Just regular like low poke, nothing special. Now we're going to talk about the Mishima step. So right here, if you do down forward 3, you have a step that lets you do the easy versions of everything. So you can do like easy electric wind, god kick, you can easy whatever. But the main one that we're going to be looking at is down forward 4 into 2. This one right here. You do down forward 3 into 4-2. You can actually enter Heaven's Wrath if you hold down, and the reason why this is good is because this is loopable in theory. So what you can do is you can do this, then press down forward again without having to press 3 this time, and you're gonna see that we can do this over and over and over again. And then if they finally go for a low block, you can go for 1-4. Really solid. This is just good in general to use. I will give you pressure scenarios later on that will work with this in particular, and this works at any level, by the way. This works even at top level. You can hit people with this. The last thing I'm going to be talking about before we move on to Sentai is going to be throws, because throws are obviously important. You want to hit a throw every now and again. I would suggest going for up forward 1+2. And the biggest reason why is because, one, it is harder at a lower level for people to not just mash 1 or 2, but mash 1+2 or like press it together at the same time. It's a reaction thing as well. They have to react to both hands being there. That's the first one. You can even catch people at a higher level with 1+2. These are way easier to break, and people might even accidentally mash that button and get out. We're just trying to mitigate that, right, with up forward 1+2. And another reason why this is good is because she has a follow-up afterwards. You can do up forward 1+2 and then down forward 1. And if you hit a just frame, you can get even more damage out of it, which will combo, right? So that's really good. You just get like an extra like 20 something damage for it. Okay, now let's talk about Sentai. Sentai is the only stance I'm going to be talking about today or touching on, because there's going to be other guides for the other stances over time. I'm just going to make more guides as time comes, but right now I just want you to know about the most important stance the most. If you do stuff in Heaven's Wrath, or if you do stuff with Soku, it's just not necessary, to be honest. It's very niche, very niche usage at low level. So overall, let's talk about Sentai. Sentai has 2 highs, 4 mids, and 1 low option. And one of these high options actually being an untechable throw. So right here we have the regular throw on Reina that you can do, which is techable. And then we have the high version of Sentai right here, which cannot be teched. No matter what you do, the only way to win against it is to duck it, just like with any other high. So usually what we're aiming for with Sentai right now is doing forward 2 into 3. And the biggest reason why is just because it is +1, and the strategy behind it is that you frame trap your opponent. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to try to hit our opponent with this, and if they would mash, we will go for an immediate 1-1. And the biggest reason why is because if they mash anything, we are 1 frame in advantage, as you can see right here, right? And because we're 1 frame advantage, that allows us to go for a jab without any risk, quite literally. You can go for a jab right there, and they can't really do anything except go for a ducking. But most people are just trying to like contest it, if anything. So that is like the most important thing for Sentai that we need to be worried about right now. Literally just spamming this over and over. And then when we do hit it with 1-1-2, we can go again and like hit it again or do like another mix-up. But I will show you all the other options and what they can be used for in order if you need to mix it up or play against opponents that already know this counter and have like counterplay to it, anything like that. I've already talked about the highs, which are forward 2 into 3, or like just Sentai 3 by itself. And then we have Sentai 1+3 or Sentai 2+4. The throw itself, like it's just depending on what you like to do. I personally always go for 1+3 because that's what I'm comfortable with. If you're comfortable with 2+4, that's great too. That doesn't really matter, right? But let's talk about the other versions. Let's talk about the mids. Next, we're going to talk about Sentai 2 into 1. Sentai 2 into 1 is an armor move, as you can see. And this usually is used, in my opinion, as a hard read for if somebody is mashing. Forward 2 into 3 has counterplay, whereas people can press a button and you're gonna go in a straight trade scenario where both of you are taking damage and you're gonna be reset to neutral. So in order to combat this, what we can do is we can do Sentai 1 into 2, which can also be hit confirmed, by the way. You can delay this. However, I wouldn't suggest this in general. This is pretty risky to do. I would only do this if you're absolutely sure they're mashing the entire time. That is the only time I would actually go for this because the risk reward is pretty big. So let's say you fail this, we're -16. It is just like this right here, very bad for us. We can get punished hard. We can get launch punished. We can take like 80 damage, be at the wall. It's not good overall. Sentai 4. This move right here. This is another thing that you can use as extra plus frames as it is +4. I would, however, use this after you hit a 1-1-2. And the reason why is because it takes more frames to come out. So if I were to hit this right here on Kazuya, I would then go for this for extra pressure. Because there's no combo that I can do afterwards with Sentai. I can't hit anything guaranteed after 1-1-2. So we could go for this, for example. It's just a better version of using Sentai 3. Also, it is a mid, so if the opponent crouches, they will get hit immediately. Sentai 2, this is just a check. This is a good alternative to using this the entire time. This is just a good mid check if you want to be safe and not hit out of it. That is good to use like that. Pretty much as a checking mid and it's safe. Sentai 1+2. Sentai 1+2 leads into Heaven's Wrath. And the only other thing we would need to know for Heaven's Wrath right now, I believe, is going for the 2 button. And the reason why is because it is a frame trap if you are ever in plus frames, and also it is a combo afterwards. So let's say we hit this, for example, right here. If you hit 2 right here, you get a 53 damage combo, and you get it by the string itself. So you get it by 1 plus 2 itself, since the Sentai, since 442 doesn't combo here, right? You get it by itself to people mid. You can get this as extra damage, and then you can have Oki, like going for, like, for example, this over and over again. Anything like that is usually it. It's a very big damage enabler if you know your opponent ducks a lot. Again, bear in mind, not the best thing in the world to do all the time, but if you do have a good read, then go for it. Now let's talk about the Sentai lows, which is only one. So it is using 3 plus 4. If you do Sentai into 3 plus 4, you essentially get a low into a high. It jails by itself, so it's good to use. And personally, how I would use it is I'll be using it if they were to just block a lot standing, like this, and they would just get like hit over and over by the block. There's no harm in just going this straight up, because it's just guaranteed damage. It is just guaranteed damage by itself. You don't have to worry about anything else. They can obviously duck it, just like any other high in this case, because a low and a high both get countered by that. However, the good thing about it, in my opinion, is just that it just does straight damage. If you have to kill your opponent with a little bit of extra health left, you can go for this as a mix-up, or you can go for a bunch of mids here because they have to crouch low, right? And then you enable that again. So the low itself is pretty good to use during like 442, or even like after a hit here of 112. That can be used like that because they're like trying to like go for anything. Also, if they were to mash a button, you like a high, for example, you would be going under that, and then you could punish that too. So a bunch of applications you can use for the low. Now let's move on and talk about the heat engagers. Since we're going to be using Sentai a ton, there's going to be a heat engager every single time almost, which is going to be for this. If we're using 442 into Sentai 3 as a true combo, right, which it is, we're then going to be let into a heat engager. And during heat engagers, we have a couple of scenarios I would like you to go over for pressure, because what do we do afterwards? Let's talk about the thing I've mentioned earlier with this Mishima step. So the step itself, it's a really good way to open up people in general. And I think during this scenario where they're literally in your face and having to block anything, going for the loop right here is extremely good. Because if you just keep doing this over and over, eventually they're going to press low, and then during Heaven's Wrath, we can use the medium I talked about, which is 2 in this case, which is a frame trap. So if they were to mash during this, they will get hit. And also, in general, this has extreme amounts of pushback, so they can't just punish you for it either. This is the first scenario that I would like you to do. Whenever you hit somebody with this, just try to go for the low right here. Try to go for the low into medium, and just do it over and over. And then if you catch them crouching, you can go for this, or you go for Heaven's Wrath into 2. Those are the ones that you can go for now. Very solid. Extremely, extremely solid. The next scenario we're going to be talking about is just going for a throw. A throw is perfect for catching them off guard. And then using down 4-1 is like another way to just get extra damage right here, right? Because as we said earlier, if you hit this right here, boom, boom, right? And then the last scenario we can go over is going for down forward 1-2. And this is mostly if they're just going to be crouching a bunch. If you know they're going to be crouching, so like they're not going to get hit by the lows, and then they're also not going to get hit by the throw, right? Because crouching, like, it covers low and high. What can you do? You can go for down forward 1. Going for down forward 1-2 here is also incredibly good afterwards, because it leads into another heat engager. So if you didn't know, if you hold forward, you can get another heat engager after this. So let's say, for example, I would just reset here and go for this again, and it would lead into this dash that you get right here. So if I were to use heat right here, and I were to get this, see, I can guarantee it, 65 damage. It's a really good way to just end the round, or like just to do extra damage in general. And you can do this for anything that basically just gives you that, right? So even here we could use this no problem. Do the damage here, and we just move on with our day. So that's why it's good, right? So you just get extra damage, do down 4-1, maybe you can even kill them for it at this point. So now let's talk about the general game plan. I've went over pretty much every move that we're going to be using in Reina's kit. Obviously there's some other moves you can fuck around with, right? Like figure out if you want to use them or not, but this is like the basic strategy that I'm going to give you now. Let's start with round start. At round start or at close ranges, the best buttons to use are 1-1-2, because it leads into Sentai, which then leads into pressure if you do get a hit. You can do whatever you want here. You can lead to this, get a heat engager, get damage right here, right? Whatever you want, get like even a throw afterwards. So it's really good by itself to just use this. It's the fastest button in Reina's kit. You can also use it as a punish. It is what it is. Next, down forward 1 into either Sentai or 2. Rarely ever will you use the 1 here. Rarely ever will you. That's just basically what I would like to use if I wanted to just hit somebody who's crouching a bunch or just anything like that, or I would just try to get a heat engager. And then the last one is going to be down 4. And down 4 is just a fast low option you can use. So now we have the fastest option we can use, which is 1, down 4 1, and down 4. Those are the ones we like to use the most at a close range. Now the medium range, what we would like to start using is forward 2, because forward 2 has insane range by itself, as you can see. Boom, boom. Automatically links into Sentai free. If it doesn't link into Sentai free as a guaranteed combo, it's +1 if they block it, so it's fine. There's no risk attached by itself unless they crouch, which is completely fine again. And you can just go for everything here. But yeah, the medium range, you can go for forward 2 into Sentai. Very strong by itself. Just use whatever you see fit. So after we hit forward 2 free, we obviously have the option of going into the mix-ups that we talked about earlier, which is like hitting a low, hitting a medium, hitting a high, like going for a throw, anything like that. That's usually like the best solution, and that's just what we want to do at a medium range. If we catch our opponent whiffing a bunch of buttons, we can start doing down forward 2, right? So our launcher or the electrifying God Fist. And if you do use that, we can get full combos, which is great, right? So for example, we can get something like this. Alright, something like that as launcher. I will be showing you the combos that I do in a little bit. And then whenever you're trying to poke your opponent or just get them when they're not pressing anything, we can go for down back 2, down 4. We can even go for the step here in neutral if we want to, if we're like far enough away so we can set it up, right? That's like an option by itself. Then when we're in here, we can use either a medium or loop it again. And every time your opponent just blocks a lot and you can't open them up, go for a brawl. That's the most basic game plan I can give you on Reina. That is at the absolute most basic game plan I'm giving Reina that you should be following. It is extremely effective, however. Even if you get better, it is good to use. You're just going to have to mix up a bit more because you're playing against more experienced players and you can't just be pressing the same buttons every single time. So now what I'm going to be giving you is 2 basic launcher combos that work on pretty much 80 to 90% of our launchers that you can just do. And then other than that, we're pretty much done for the video. So I wish you fun labbing out Reina and looking at these combos. And if you have any questions, please be sure to write them in the comment section. Alright, you guys have a good one. Check out these combos and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.